Today on Locked On Rockies, too many mistakes, too many missed opportunities, too many errors sink the opening series for the Colorado Rockies. But at the same time, I think we just got to admit the Diamondbacks are good.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the first day of April in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. And boy, that was something on Friday. And you folks definitely tuned in, responded. Let me know what's on your mind. Too many comments probably to go through. So I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in and airing your grievances, tuning in, letting me know what's on your mind. Hey, when the Rockies play like that, when stuff like that happens, nothing else you can do than take it off the chin and move on, analyze it, and go from there. Unfortunately, the Rockies can't split the series. The Rockies fall to the Diamondbacks 3 games out of 4. We're going to dive into the series and talk about the missed opportunities, slow starts for some, and also just admit here that I think the Diamondbacks, man, you got to focus on how good that team is and how they definitely took a step forward as well. Something that you can compare and consider when you're thinking about the Rockies as well. But we'll dive into all of that on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into everything, just want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Check out the FanDuel app. Folks, okay, let's dive in. Let's figure out, let's digest. It was not really an ideal start to the season. It was not really an ideal way for the Rockies to go through this opening series. It reminds you, and it put on full display that this team not only is steps behind members of the NL West, but this team has flaws. And when their flaws are on full display, and when the teams know the flaws, and when the teams know how to exploit the flaws, series like this happen. Now, you can sit there and say the third and fourth game a little bit closer. The score gets a little out of hand in terms of what the Rockies actually, some of the performance stuff. In the finale, the last game closer than the score determines. But what you saw in this series was the Rockies can't put away batters. The Rockies aren't hitting their spots. The Rockies are giving up too many free opportunities. The Rockies defense is sluggish to start. The Rockies offense from key players, sluggish to start. All of these issues, all of these things were on full display and compounded in the fact that it just looked overwhelming in those first 2 games. And that's going to happen a lot to this Rockies team unless they make adjustments. This team is going to go up against some of the best pitchers and the best rotations in baseball. It's not going to be unlikely when you're facing 2, maybe 3 of some of the best arms in a rotation for a team, especially in the NL West. And if you're going to be so thoroughly dominated like the Rockies were in those first 2 games, then it is going to be a 100-loss season. Then you aren't going to see the steps in the right direction that we need to see from the young guys. And we certainly aren't going to feel any more confident in some of the veterans on this team. I mean, when you're talking about big warning signs, when you're talking about things that are an issue, Chris Bryant's approach at the dish is an issue. He is, I mean, when you're talking about mistakes, he is not reading pitches at all. He is swinging and not even lining things up. The Rockies are getting down in counts too quickly. The defense making mistakes, the errors costing them multiple runs in the finale. Too many mistakes against a good team is going to cost you every single time. And the Rockies even got away with making mistakes, because if you are going to be that susceptible, then you're going to have to back it up with offense. You're going to have to go blow for blow. You're going to have to make something up like the Rockies did in Game 3, where 9 walks on the road. There is no way. If you were to tell me that the Rockies had 9 walks on the road, no way I would think that they would win that ball game. So it's good that they were. It's good that the offense did that. It was good that we got to see them bounce back and do that and go after some of the, the weaker arms in this rotation. But then the finale comes along, and the Rockies just get totally get dominated again, even when they're up there and in many cases and leading the Diamondbacks in hits. 3 errors though, that's going to negate all your good work. You're going to have to start stringing things together. You're going to have to start getting performances from your core. Because the biggest worries that you can take away from the offense in these first games is Chris Bryant and Brendan Rodgers. There's stuff to be excited about, and we will talk about things that we liked, but man, the Rockies lost because all of their weaknesses were on display. They couldn't hit on the road. Their starting pitchers got shellacked. Ryan Feltner honestly had a pretty good start today, but still their pitchers give up runs, give up big hits. The worst mistakes on top of the walks that the pitching staff was making in this series was, they weren't just hitting the ball, the Diamondbacks. They were crushing the ball. You can go look at the exit velocities. You can go look at it. It's a problem when it's all 4 games, home run, multi-run home runs hit by the Diamondbacks in this series. You can't do that. You can't have that. All of the worries, all of the hiccups, all of the hesitations, all of the concerns that people had about the Colorado Rockies going into the season were on full display in this series. The question marks about key players only grew. The pitching staff really didn't come out and convince anybody that they have taken a step forward. We already dove into Kyle Freeland, but while the Rockies the starters were able to hang in there wasn't anything that necessarily was great. Austin Gomber got roughed up a little bit in there as well. There was no one that came out of this series clean. There was no one that came out of this series without something that they need to look at and analyze and break down. Because you can't, that is just, the Diamondbacks started the season off on a tear against the Rockies. Outscoring the Rockies by a score of, let me see here, 32 to 14, if my math's correct, roughly. That's my quick math. That's a massive problem. And this is why people get, when you're looking at how far can the Rockies go? Can they improve? Can they do this stuff? Can they get better? You can't get outscored like that in a series. I know the first game's an outlier, but it doesn't matter. It's 5 runs minimum from the 4 runs minimum. The Diamondbacks were held to 4 in the win. The Diamondbacks scored at least 4 runs, over 5 in the wins in those games. You have to negate the damage, especially on the road. And in the finale game on Sunday, it's a 2-run ball game throughout most of it, and then Nolan Jones lets up things. 3 errors. Good teams are going to punish you for that. And the Diamondbacks did nothing but punish the Rockies' mistakes. When you make as many mistakes as the Colorado Rockies did in this opening series, good teams will punish you for it. And that's exactly what the Diamondbacks did. You give Nolan Jones drops a fly ball, we will score 2 runs. You walk a batter, we will hit them over. We will steal a base. If you give us an opportunity, we are going to take it. That's the Diamondbacks killer mentality. That's the mentality the Rockies need to have, because they had opportunities in these games. They did. But they have to capitalize. And now, just like we've talked about before, how do the Rockies respond? How do you handle this? How do you take steps in the right direction? How do you get better? How do you respond? Can you respond? That type of those type of questions are going to be on full display now as you're going up against the Cubs here, who I'll dive into this next in the positive sections here. They got a chance here, because I'm not buying into any Central team, no matter what division they're in. Let's keep diving into this, but let's talk about some of the good things that we saw in the game, including a good start from one young guy in particular. We'll talk about that coming up here next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered as we are in the thick of sports. We got pro basketball, college basketball, we got hockey, we got all sorts of tournaments going on in the world of college sports, and of course, Major League Baseball is back and in full swing. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, Major League Baseball, the NBA, NHL, and so much more. $200 when your winning $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. Remember, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon for that $200 in bonus bets after your winning $5 bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're also brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn has got you covered, because if you need some help closing deals, the B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage highly valued customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. The Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial. That's a 60-day free trial at LinkedIn.com/lockedon. That's LinkedIn.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to LinkedIn.com/lockedon. LinkedIn.com/lockedon to get started. Folks, this is the Locked On Rockies podcast, for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show, firing off your Rockies hot takes, letting me know what's on your mind, and bringing out your Rockies thoughts. Hey, if you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all the shouting, you can make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we were talking about the amount of mistakes that the Rockies made and how the Diamondbacks made them pay for it. It felt like every single time the Rockies made a mistake, they were punished for it. But let's talk about some of the good things that happened. The Rockies do score 9 runs and have a solid win against the Rockies. When you can navigate a 9-walk performance and put up 10 hits and get enough to drive in, That's great. Multiple crooked number innings there from the offense. And there are some key players that have started the season off very well. Charlie Blackmon has shown that he can swing the bat pretty well. Nolan Jones has been pretty decent. I mean, we all right there. Really, really great at bat in the win after he fouled off a couple of things. I think it was an 11 pitch at bat, and then he finally goes off there. Ezekiel Tovar lifts one out of the yard, but a big moment here. He's played every day, and he has certainly been a factor in being productive. Elehuris Montero walking 3 times cannot be understated. His approach at the dish looks completely different. He looks like someone that's more confident and in control of his abilities and what he's able to do up there, and that is going to be key as the Rockies look for him to be someone that can convert and contribute to this team and work his way up in the lineup as well, sitting at the 8th spot as well. They're hoping to bring that up there. He goes hitless in the first 2 games. They're going 0 for 3 in both of those games, but to go out there and to get those 3 walks, something he's never done in his entire baseball career, that's progress. It's a step in the right direction, and it shows that he's in more control than we think. Obviously we want to see he gets a hit here in the game on Sunday. Super unlucky with his hitting in the first game as well. He had opportunities there that were snagged and robbed by really good defense, but I'm encouraged by the approach from Montero so far. I'd like to see it translate into actually hits and actual production there, but 3 walks in a game is something we really didn't think. I mean, a walk in a game for Montero at certain points during his tenure seemed like it would be incredibly unlikely from the Rockies first baseman, but it's a good sign. Plus, we see Brenton Doyle put together, throw some hits out there as well. We have seen, Jacob Stallings picked up a couple of hits today. There is a pulse to this offense. They're just going to have to come up clutch. They're going to have to be able to drive in runs when they need to. Another person that's had a nice approach so far to start this season off is Ryan McMahon as well. I was talking to one of my buddies there, going with a focus for more of a contact focus there as well. Now it's got to start building together and building into runs, building into scoring, building into momentum. There are, like we said, the Rockies out hit the Diamondbacks in the loss in the finale by 3. But the Diamondbacks score 5 runs on 5 hits. I know that 2 of those are unearned, but you're seeing throughout the series when the Diamondbacks had scoring opportunities, they were able to convert. It's something the Rockies have to get better at. Like we were talking about the mistakes, but it's converting. It's being better on the road. It's being aggressive in the right situations. It's minimizing the damage, minimizing the big innings. And unfortunately, the Rockies were not able to do that. And they got to something as well is playing from behind in the first inning every single game is draining, is a problem. It's a massive problem. So I know I know we're talking some of the positive stuff there, but it's hard not to look. The main takeaway from this series to start the season is when the Rockies' flaws are exposed, it can get real bad real quick. And teams are going to be able to do that. I don't know. There's hopefully enough there that we can see the Rockies stop the bleeding. But there was just a too many times where I felt like the hill was too steep to climb for the Rockies in this series. And maybe that's because I think part of this, and something that we have to reflect on as well, is their opponent was good. Their opponent has improved. That is a better Diamondbacks roster than we saw last year. But when this team had opportunities to get after some of the weaker Diamondbacks pitching in the second half of the rotation, they were able to do so. They were able to get out there and start doing some damage. I know they didn't do much in terms of scoring today, but getting out there, getting those hits, being aggressive, that's a good sign. It's going to come down to this team has to minimize their mistakes and has to start converting, has to start generating opportunities and making sure that you're getting the job done when those opportunities present itself. But I think I want to reflect on two more things here as we wind down the first series, because I think that there are two things that are two of the main focuses that should be on Rockies fans' mind. One about a player with the Rockies, and two about the opponent. So we're going to do that coming up here in segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all things in the world of sports, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos, and more. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Folks, this is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk, shouting out all our everydayers out there, thanking you for making us your first listen of the day, reacting to the Rockies' first series of the season, going 1-3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Kris Bryant concerns are really on full display. I mean, you can't sit there and not be increasingly concerned about Kris Bryant. I know it's early. I know it's the first series. I know people can start slow. They're the same thing about Brendan Rodgers in that situation, but it's a massive problem when Kris Bryant looks as lost at the dish as he does right now, when he looks as just out there, when he looks as disconnected, when he just is not in the place that the Rockies need him, even at this stage in the season. Just from a lot of the hype and from him talking about, from hearing a lot about him being really healthy, and I feel like that should add to a little bit of confidence there. My concern level for Kris Bryant is only growing, especially after he gets plunked there. It was a little slow. He was obviously able to play. But when we're talking about worries, when we're talking about issues with the Rockies, that's one to watch. But I think one thing, too, as we put a close on this, is I think we just got to admit that the Diamondbacks got better. The Diamondbacks are a team that is going to be a problem for a lot of contenders this year. They are a team that made it to the World Series by getting hot at the right time, kept a lot of that core intact, and then built on some of the mistake areas. The next time the Rockies see the Diamondbacks, there's a chance that they're going to see Montgomery in the rotation as well. This is a team that obviously made an immediate upgrade at third base with Gino Suarez. This is a team that I think we didn't focus on enough. This is a team that showed you that's the recipe for success right now. The Diamondbacks are a team, I said this last year, and I'll say this again. They are a team that has embraced what baseball is right now. They were stealing bases. They were doing damage by hitting for contact and hitting the hell out of the ball. They were aggressive in the right ways. They punished you for your mistakes, and they had top-level pitching. Not the whole series, but in moments there. And they're only going to get better. So as we can sit and continue to compare, you have to tip your hat to the Diamondbacks. They had a great offseason. They built on a solid core. They are a team that easily got kind of drowned out in a lot of the NL West stuff, but immediately in my eyes sits there and say, that's a sleeper team again. That's a team that I have full confidence in looking at and saying that they can compete all year long. And it's not just because they're playing the Rockies. It's looking at how they beat the Rockies. Great pitching, clutch hitting, really, really solid fundamentals on top of everything. Being heads up and smart as a manager as well, knowing the challenge, multiple challenges in this series. They didn't miss a moment. They were immediate into their challenges. That's a team that came into the season locked in and ready to go. It's a team that wanted to prove that it wasn't a fluke. It's a team that shows the blueprint and holds an unfortunate, I don't know, mirror if it's the right thing, but if you're Dick Monfort and you're looking at the Arizona Diamondbacks, you have to be pissed off because they did it right and you did it wrong. Those were two teams in similar situations for a long time, and that Arizona Diamondbacks team, in my eyes, has become one of the most exciting teams in baseball. And it took one series to show it. When you can play the game as effectively and efficiently as they do, you get envious. Because if the Rockies could hit the ball like the Diamondbacks did, if the Rockies could feast like the Diamondbacks did, if the Rockies could capitalize on the mistakes and the opportunities that they were given like the Diamondbacks did, they'd be a better team. They'd be splitting the series. They'd be able to go toe-to-toe and fight against the teams in the NL West. What we learned about the Diamondbacks as well is if the Rockies are able to piece together a somewhat decent season with some of these younger guys establishing themselves as part of the core, is they have to switch it up. The Rockies have to reevaluate the talent at some point. The Rockies are going to have to go in and buy in. They're going to have to open up the wallet. They're going to have to spend more because these teams are getting better. And when the Diamondbacks take another step forward, at least in my eyes, you're in big, big trouble. I mean, as much as concern and frustration and stuff that you can pin on the Rockies here in this one, rightfully so, I think you can't sit there and not give Arizona the credit where it's due. From the offseason to the execution on the field, this is a team that really wants to make some noise. And it's another moment that makes you envious. It's another moment. It's another reminder of the NL West getting better. Another reminder of the NL West going forward, going towards best teams in baseball, best division in baseball, talk of the league, best in the business. While the Rockies are middling. And Dick Monfort can have whatever feelings he wants about the spending habits and blah, blah, blah of other teams. But you're not going to be able to... You can't leave that series and sit there and say that those two teams are on the same level. It's not even close. I think the Diamondbacks, as much as we were exposed to the worries, the concerns, and the flaws of the Rockies in this first series, I think we were also exposed to a Diamondbacks team that is really looking to turn some heads and say, we're here, we're ready to throw down with anybody. And that includes the Dodgers, because we already took care of them before. In the biggest moments. Padres will do the same. Giants will do the same. The Diamondbacks look like a team constructed to go toe-to-toe with any of the other teams. At least give themselves a shot by buying fully into their style of baseball. Whereas the Rockies have not. You even heard it on the broadcast there, Spilly, talking about how the Diamondbacks have built their team to use their home stadium. That is creative thinking. That is creative lineup construction. That is creative front office work. You cannot say the same about the Rockies. There's plenty of baseball left. There's plenty of opportunities for the Rockies to turn it around, especially because we'll dive into this more too. The Cubs can prove it to me. Any team in the NL Central, I know they're good teams. They're 80-win teams. I know they're good teams, better than the Rockies teams. But I'm not sitting here being more worried about the Cubs than I was the Diamondbacks or anyone in the NL West. I'll take the Rockies' chances against any team in any of the Central divisions, and I think the Rockies have a chance to make things to be a headache a little bit for the Cubs. Just because I don't know, I'm not overly confident in this Cubs team, even or really teams in the Central. I know they're better. It's a Cubs team that just hung up 9 on the Rangers, but they only won one of their games as well. They gave up some damage as well. There's been some other teams that have had some rough opening weekends as well, that aren't just the Colorado Rockies. Opening day just overshadows that. So we'll see what happens. Rockies playing an early one tomorrow, so we'll see. It's gonna be a quick turnaround from them, and they're playing a day game there for, I believe it's the home opener for the Chicago Cubs as well. So a lot of theatrics. We'll see how it all plans out. Folks, thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming services or on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. You can be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind. We'll be covering the Rockies all season long, so make sure that you stay tuned. Stick with us, folks. You can go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs. Got you covered as well. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.